Hello and a very warm welcome to all the viewers of 3.0 TV. This is Manoj Dara. So, cryptocurrency markets are under broader concern since the time FTX went bankrupt. So, to explain the entire episode about cryptocurrency markets, how regulations are shaping in the world, and what is the outlook of 2023, we have invited two special guests. Let me introduce you to Dileep Seinberg, founder and CEO of MupInPay. Dileep, welcome on 3.0 TV.
Thank you, Manoj.
And our second guest is Pratik Gauri, founder Fire Orgy. Pratik, welcome on 3.0 TV as well.
Thank you, Manoj.
So, I will start with you, Dileep. Since the time FTX collapse has impacted the overall cryptocurrency market, the same situation we have seen in May, wherein the Terra-Luna collapsed. And post that, in May, we have seen a cascading impact. And we are here in November. Since the time FTX went bankrupt, we have seen one more red flag, that is in the name of block fee. So how do you see this entire situation for the market? And how do you see this impacting the overall cryptocurrency market as well?
Right. So primarily the entire chain of events started in 2021 when the USDT claim was questioned whether they are really backed by the dollar or not. So US government has questioned them. After that, the series of events has happened from Luna, and now the FTX case is there. So primarily the impact is definitely significant in part where people want to launch their project into different exchanges like Gate.io and the KuCoin basically. So these are also getting impacted by this. So definitely the upcoming projects are getting impacted by the entire event. Also, the investors' confidence has been impacted, like whether they want to invest in the project, which is like quite famous or quite popular in the media or probably in the space. So these are the few things I'm getting from the community as well as across the investment board, basically investment people. Yes.
All right, Pratik. So the top important point which Dileep had actually made is investor confidence is getting rattled. What is your view and what is your opening remarks?
Yeah, so definitely I'll echo with Dileep's comments on all of this. Has definitely had an impact on the investor sentiment, specifically when it comes to retail investors and more specific to first time users who kind of getting into the Web3 and cryptocurrency space and trying to invest, because it obviously, but I think if you look at in a broader perspective, then I think all of these things would actually prove out to be good for in the long run. The reason is most of the projects, which do not have utility, they are ultimately going to die. And that's anyways the future of the space, where projects without utility actually became just through hype. They ended up becoming pretty big due to the bull cycle. But now what we've seen is most of the projects which do not have utility are going to go out of the market.
Fantastic.
So very few projects who actually have good utility will survive, and they are going to end up becoming larger projects, and investors will and I think investors now also realize more than ever that you need to look at the white paper or the token economics document and do a bunch of research before investing. It shouldn't just be based on hype or social media influencers where you invest. So I think those kind of dynamics are changing, which is I think good for the industry.
All right. So point well taken, Dileep. What Pratik has mentioned is with utility, all those tokens with utility will survive going forward. There was an argument then that algorithmic stable coins are not that stable, and hence we have seen a correction in the market. And yet another correction which we have seen, that investors are now shifting their money from centralized exchanges to the decentralized exchanges. So how do you read this statement, and what are the top takeaways from this?
Yeah, agreeing to the Pratik's point here. So from like shifting from centralized exchanges like FTX, or there are multiple exchanges there in the market, to decentralized exchanges. Like primary objective is to get the custody and the security of the fund. So let's say the investors are investing in the crypto assets or probably in some coin. So who is managing those coins basically? Who is giving you the guarantee for those coins or the assets? So these centralized exchanges are definitely the people. It's a people-driven exchanges where the companies are responsible for your funds, for your investment, and for everything. In the decentralized case, it's not dependent on the people. It's dependent on the codes basically. The technology which has made this possible. So there are two significant difference here, but eventually I think we should be moving toward the regulation side that is going to eventually protect the funds and investors in the long run. So I think that's the key highlight here, and that's what the US government or probably the Indian government are moving forward with this part.
Fantastic. And Pratik, what Dileep has mentioned, few keywords I have picked is who is managing your funds, and point number 2 is the word he mentioned was guarantee. What is your view on this?
Yeah, so number one, when you talk about blockchain in itself, like because any crypto asset relies on the underlying technology, which is blockchain. So if you look at blockchain, it is a distributed ledger technology. It was meant to be a decentralized technology. It was meant to be, governed by a DAO system, which is decentralized autonomous organization system. It was never meant to have a centralized power structure when one person kind of manages the fund. And that's what I think Dileep was also mentioning. When you talk about a centralized exchange, if it's not your key, it's not your crypto, because somebody else is managing the money on your behalf. So until there is either you have a regulation in place where there is a third party who's regulating where the money is being deployed and how it is being deployed, and if that is itself sitting on a blockchain and you can look at it, then it's a different ball game. But if it's not the case, whether it was in the case of FTX, if I had my funds parked in FTX, there was some manager who was responsible for allocating those funds, and he could have done anything with those funds. So you don't have any line of sight to where the money is getting deployed. If that is the case, then it defeats the whole purpose of having a blockchain technology and having a fund or having a financial transaction on top of a layer 1 chain. It ideally defeats the purpose. So I think that's my point of view on a centralized exchange, which I think follows a centralized power structure managed by a fund. So if it's not your key, it's not your crypto, definitely.
Fantastic point well taken, Pratik. And but Dileep, what I've picked up from this conversation is not your key, not your crypto. That's a big statement which is highlighted by Pratik. And where the money is deployed, that is actually a big question mark. So my next question to you is, what kind of global regulatory oversight is required for the crypto industry to make sure that such incident like the Terra-Luna crash and the FTX collapse doesn't happen? And what is the steps you recommend as far as the regulatory, the regulations or the regulators should learn from these mistakes?
Right, Moni, I think it's the right question, so I think I would like to highlight something here. So, which is happening in the European Union. So they have come up with the MiCA. It's a bill basically,
exactly,
which can protect your crypto funds, crypto assets. So it's known as markets in crypto assets. So this is the bill they have passed, and it's pending. So it's going to take around 15 to 18 months of time to entirely regulate the crypto assets. So they have classified cryptos into 3 categories, and so the idea of protecting your funds would be somewhere. Let's say if I need to build an exchange, or probably I need to build a crypto bank. So what I need to do, I need to protect the consumer's funds. So this regulation helps in protecting the funds, where the owners of the exchanges or owners of the banks won't be able to access the funds, whatever they are depositing. So let's say if somebody want to use the services, the customer will allow them to use the assets. Like I cannot use the fund being an exchange owner. So this is the key point here. So I think we need to build something from decentralized exchanges and the regulation side to combine these things to protect the consumer fund. So I think this is the significant steps here from which has been taken by the European government. And on the same line, probably the other government will be taking the next step as well. This is what I think. But it has still it has lots of loopholes, and probably they have not covered everything in the law. But I believe that future will take care of the entire laws and the steps here.
So Pratik, your quick take on MICA, which he has mentioned, Dileep has mentioned that it is still not passed. So your quick take on this and how this will change the game.
So look, it is definitely a step towards regulatory framework, and as I think Dileep mentioned, if you're a user, until you give your consent, nobody is allowed to deploy those funds on your behalf. Definitely a good measure. But I think with the way the world is going, I think MICA is just one step from the European government, and I think more governments, with India coming up with e-rupee and all the other governments, they're going to come up with their own regulations. And I think there are three pieces which needs to be solved. I think one is awareness. So right now, people still don't understand the space. People still don't understand how to invest money. It's a whole different ballgame. So I think that's one. Second, I think I'll echo with Dileep's point here on decentralized exchanges. I think the focus should be mostly there. And
Alright.
if you are doing a centralized exchange, then there should definitely be a regulatory framework. What MICA has come up with, or what European, but it's still pending by the parliament, but I hope it gets passed. So when it gets passed, I think then that will be a one step towards regulatory framework. So I think it's definitely a good way that the world is moving, in specifically in the crypto world.
Pratik, can you quickly throw some tips, so that all our viewers who are watching this, some quick security features so that investors should protect their funds. What is your recommendation very quickly?
I mean, I would definitely, as I said, not your key, not your crypto.
Fantastic.
I would definitely go for a cold storage, a hardware wallet, or I would go for a decentralized exchange. And as I mentioned, if you are deploying your funds in a centralized exchange because of returns or because of something else that you think you want to trade your money or something else, then you need to, I think I would still say, until a regulatory framework is in place, I would not still call it it's safe. Because it's still not your funds until you have the key. Always remember it.
So Dileep, Pratik's recommendation is about cold storage. I mean, the hardware wallet which is away from the internet. What is your recommendation? Right. I mean, can you elaborate very quickly about the hygiene ways Muffin Pay uses to secure investors' funds?
Right. So the Muffin Pay, basically it will be controlled by the same laws where we won't be accessing the consumer's funds in the bank. So let's say if somebody want to deposit the money to our bank, they will be able to deposit it. We won't be able to access it until and unless the consumers give us the approval that, okay, we want to use some services like bill payments, or probably they want to shop, they want to use cards like Visa and all. So they will need to allow us to use their funds. So this is the secured way of having the custody of the funds, because it will be under the government. So nobody when it's regulated, I think the funds are secured. So this is what Pratik is talking about when we talk about the decentralized versus the regulated. So Muffin Pay is following the path of regulation with evolving with the technology as well. So it's a mixture of both. You can say the crypto and also the traditional, you can say the banking norms. It's a mixture of both. So this is how we are going to protect the funds.
All right. So since we are talking about investor protection, regulations, and the road ahead, there are a lot of changes that have happened in India. I'm talking about the central bank digital currencies. So my next question to you, to Pratik, is a lot of countries are adopting CBDCs, and India has also launched. I mean, as we speak, there are a lot of statements that have come from the RBI governor, Shaktikanta Das. So how do you think this will impact the day-to-day lives of the common people in days forward? Pratik.
I think the biggest thing is it gives the I think two big things. A, ensures transparency. So when the e-rupee actually kicks in, there's going to be more transparency of the funds, where the funds went, more accountability. I think there will be more security and there will be more trust. So I think four big factors coming into play as soon as CBDC gets rolled out. Definitely a very, very brilliant move when it actually gets rolled out. I think for the end consumer, think of it this way. I would say it gives you the power. It gives the power back to the community. It gives if I'm a user,
Fantastic.
Right? If I'm using a traditional banking service versus using a CBDC, I have more power. if I'm an end consumer, because I control every way the money is being moved, compared to a banking service. So I think that's from the consumer side. But if you look at the RBI standpoint, it helps in a long way that you can prevent. Of course, it's going to prevent money laundering. I think that's one big thing that's going to get stopped. Another one is going to prevent terrorism activities, funding of terrorism activities. So funding of criminal activities, all of that is going to stop, because when the RBI kind of regulates and it puts the e-rupee into place, you can actually track where the money was sent. The whole supply chain of the money completely changes. And specifically the incentivization of stakeholders when you actually move money from one place to the other, that can also be regulated by RBI. So it's going to be a big move. I think it's the way forward, and it's great for the end consumer, because more importantly, the end consumer, it's going to allow a two-way interaction directly between the central bank and the end consumer. Right now, of course, we have an intermediary, which is a bank. So that goes away. So I think that's very important, and it's a great move.
Fantastic. I mean, Pratik, many keywords, but Dileep, what I've picked, is Pratik has actually highlighted. It's a brilliant move. That's what our Governor Shaktikanta Das has highlighted. It's a huge success. And Pratik has also mentioned that it will create accuracy, it will create more trust and accountability as well. What's your opinion on the CBDCs?
Yes, I think it's a great move by the government, and I would like to add few points here, because people have been asking me about the questions like how does CBDC work, it's different from the cash. So I think the important thing, it's known as digital cash. It means it's like having a cash in the CBDC form. So primarily, if
it will have the same features like a cash.
Yes, it's like a cash, but in the different form. So let's say if you're holding the cash in your wallet, basically, right? So you cannot grow that money automatically, right?
Exactly.
You need to have the financial services or the instrument, like if you want to lend something, or if you want to earn interest, or probably if you want to earn profit in that particular currency, you need to invest that currency. So people are a little bit confused on the idea that it's like a Bitcoin or is it like a cash. So it's a very simple concept. It's a form of cash. In basically, this is how they have created it.
All right, very quickly for our viewers, Pratik, if you can just mention that what is the difference between a CBDC and a UPI? This is just for an educational purpose.
Yeah. So the biggest difference, I think, what was just mentioned by Dileep also, it's like having cash, but with all the features. It's like digital currency, right? So, and it's regulated by a central bank. So the big difference would be, it would have all the features of cash, but it would have all the features of being regulated also, right? Because today, if you have transactions in cash, you can't regulate it. But when you put it in the central bank digital currency format, you have the same features of cash, but it's being regulated, which basically lends more transparency, accountability, and more importantly, trust. So there is no money being lost, illegal transfers stop, all of that happens.
Fantastic.
UPI, on the other hand, do not have features of cash. So it's basically a dual mechanism where you get all the features of UPI, but you get all the features of cash also. And at the back, you have it regulated so that nothing's lost.
All right, and Dileep, if you can just highlight how do you see this 2023 year? Because 2021 was a huge success. We have seen the market hitting $3 trillion, and in 2022, as we have already discussed, it was a big concern year for the entire crypto ecosystem and the Web3 universe. So how do you see this 2023, and what will be the game-changing aspect that will take this market to the next level?
Right. So I would like to add, one point on the UPI side. So UPI and CBDCs are basically, it's like building a railway line. So railway lines would be UPI, and the railways are going to be CBDC. So it's a medium. So UPI is basically a processor. It's not a currency. So there is a big difference between the currency and the UPI. Now, coming to your point about the 2023, perspective. So definitely, as we have seen in the 2022, the regulation was the key area, and the projects which was not supposed to happen, and I think they have crashed market. They have crashed the entire market. So we will see more regulation coming up in the market, probably from the different government side, and we will see the huge implementation of the CBDCs on this end. Plus, I think the credible projects will take place in the 2023, like which is pending in 2022. So I think that's going to be the shift here.
Fantastic.
So the more credible project will be highlighted in the upcoming time, and they will see the fruit of it as well.
Fantastic. Pratik, your last closing comments on how do you see, because you are also an influencer, you appear in a lot of events as well. So how do you see this blockchain technology shaping or making a difference as far as 2023 is concerned? What's your closing remarks and the outlook?
Yeah, so I think it's going to, of course, change the way data and money works. So I think there are two big minds, right? One is data and money. As it goes from Web 2 to Web 3, it's going to completely change the way the world works on the overarching side. I think that's one. Second, more importantly, I think the bad actors, right? Because of us being in the bear cycle or the bear market, I think they're going to go away. Because it's hard to survive the bear market if you're not a good actor, if you're not building right now. Because right now, most of the projects who are going to survive are the ones who are actually going to build. So 2022, I think, has been a year where all the good projects are actually building and creating a larger community and putting a lot of money actually in doing all of that, right? So, and the money is being hard to get. So because of the investor sentiment, so it's not easy to raise money in this market if you're not actually building a good product and if you're not bringing innovation specifically in blockchain and Web3. For us being a layer 1 chain, of course, our focus is to build a larger community. We've been building, and a lot of my friends who've been building in this. 2023, I think, is going to be another year which we again might have a bear market again. So it's going to be even better. I think if the bear market extends, I think it's even better because you're going to have bad actors removed, because the FTX crash or the Luna crash, all of those crashes, right? So imagine if they keep on happening, it's going to actually be bad for the market. We want these kind of things not to happen. And for these not to happen, the good things are own. See, let me tell you something. All the good stuff happens in the bear market, because that's when people think deeply and they come up with new innovation. And they come up with new regulations and they come up with new products. And that's what's happening right now. And all the best products will survive. So when we enter the next bull market in 2024, I think by then we would have had a better market sentiment. And I think we would have good players surviving.
When we enter in the bull market, we will have a better sentiment. That's the word coming in from our guest. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Pratik Gauri, for sparing your time and talking to us. And Dileep, Seinberg, it was a pleasure talking to you. You spoke really well about the MiCA regulations and the way forward, and it was really good to have you, Pratik, and educating our viewers that what steps they should take to keep their crypto safe. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being part of this interaction. This is Manoj Dara signing off. Keep watching 3.0 TV. Thank you so much.